Hello, this is Mr. Rasmussen with Algebra 2 and Lesson 91. Lesson 91 has to do with inequalities and how we relate them to each other inside of graphing. I think the lesson does a really good job of explaining this, and so I really encourage you to read through the lesson and look at the examples there. I will work through a little bit of this here to add to that. In the first part, they give us an equation here. It is in slope-intercept form. So my intercept is 1. It's a negative slope with a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So as I put the dots in there, I'm going to finish out my line. Okay, so there's that graphed line there. And then if we write this, take out the equal sign and put an inequality. If we were to put, oh, I didn't put my right values in there. It was, no, I did. All right, if we were to put in some values, for example, let's take let's take this one right here, which is 1, 4. Okay. And simply showing that if I were to put that in there and write it as 4 for my y value, as long as the y part is greater than the rest of it, it's going to show that it's up here. So then that would be negative 1/2 1 plus 1. Okay, so let's multiply that out, and we'll just show. I'll make my fraction there, get a common. 1 times 1 is 1, so it doesn't change. So we have 1/2 plus 1, then get my common denominator of 2 over 2. So negative 1 plus a 2 is positive 1/2. And so 4 greater than 1/2. Is that a true statement? 4 is greater than 1/2, so that's true. Now if I were to pick a point down here, for example, let's go with this point right here. We've got, I'll do it down here. We got 3 on the x comma negative 2. Any point down here is the same as if my y value is less than the rest of it. So I would put my y value in there of negative 2 and write less than negative 1/2 parentheses 3 and then my intercept of plus 1. And if we were to solve that out, it should prove to be true. We get negative 3 over 2 plus 1. Change this to 2 over 2 and add those together. Negative 3 plus 2 is a negative 1/2. Is negative 2 less than 1/2? Yes, it is. So it's just showing on that there. All right, if you look at section B is showing this. I'll write out what they have there. They have y is anything less than, okay, let's write y is anything less than 1/3 x plus 2. Okay, and I'll actually show this on here. So my intercept is 2, so I'll put that in right there. And then my slope is a positive rise of 1 and a run of 3. So rise of 1, run of 3, rise of 1, run of 3, rise of 1, run of 3. And so there we go, wrong line. All right, so there's my graphed line, and actually I did it incorrect. It doesn't have an equal sign here, so I should have done that in dashes. If it doesn't have an equal sign, it's in dashes, okay? And since y is less than the rest of that, that's indicating that it's any number down here. Okay, now if I did have a solid line here, then I wouldn't have dashes, I'd have a solid line running through there. And you'll see this more as we run through some of the practice problems. If I were to flip it and write that x anything larger than this graph line, then I would have filled in the top part there. Okay, that being said, section C here gives you 2 equations and has you graph both of them and then has you highlight a certain part according to what part is actually part of it. I use the word part like 20 times. Okay, let me work through, go ahead and read through section C It does a great job of explaining it, and then I will work through some practice problems here to show you what it looks like. All right, practice problem 1, or example problem 1 gives us y is anything less than 1/2 x plus 2, and then it also gives me y is anything greater than or equal to negative x minus 3. So let's graph both of those. First of all, graph the same as slope-intercept. My intercept is 2, and then my slope is a positive 1 over 2. So it looks like this here, where a positive slope, it goes up, and a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So something close to, oh, I messed it up already. All right, something close to that, except, does it have an equal sign here? No, it does not. So this is supposed to be a dashed line. So here's my modified dashed line to show that that line is not included in my graph. It's similar to when we graph on a number line. This would be equal to an open circle, whereas with the line would be equal to a closed circle, if you remember that. All right, let me graph my second line here. My second line here has an intercept of -3. It has a negative slope, so understood 1 over 1, so down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. And it does have the equal sign, so I am correct to put a solid line here. Now my next question is, what part do I shade? Well, since this first equation, y is less than anything over here, then it's anything below this line here for that equation. This one though, y is greater, so it's anything above that line, so it has to include both, a conjunction sort, so I'm going to shade this area here like that to give my answer. Includes this line, doesn't include that line, and it's that quadrant right there. All right, let's look at example 2. All right, example 2. All right, example 2 gives me y is greater than x minus 2, and then y is anything less than or equal to x plus 1. So let's graph these. Okay, my intercept is -2. My slope is a positive 1 over 1, and so it looks that way, and I won't make the same mistake. It doesn't have the equal sign, so it is a dashed line to show that the line is where it is, but it's not included. Okay, let's graph my other equation. I have an intercept of 1, and then same positive slope of 1 over 1. So it does include the line, so it's a solid line, not a dashed one. And then now I've got to shade apart. So I've got 3 sections here. I've got above, in between, and below. This one here is anything above. So anything above this line is part of it, but it's less than here, so it's anything below. So I actually shade the middle part here. All right, and that is example 2. Let's work through the practice problems. All right, practice problem A. Y is anything greater than or equal to negative x minus 2, and y is anything less than or equal to 1/3 x minus 2. All right, so this one here looks like I have the same intercept for both of them, so we know they're going to cross because one has a negative slope and one has a positive slope. Let's do this first one here. It's a negative 1 over 1, so a rise of 1 and a run of 1, and it goes down. So something kind of up, and it's equal to, so a solid line, something like that. This one here has a rise of 1, it's a positive slope, and a run of 3. So up 1 over 3, something like that. It is equal to it, so I got my solid line, something like that. All right, and then I got to do some shading. So my first line here, which is this one, it says that y is anything greater than, so it's above that one, but it's less than my second line, so below that one, so that leaves me this part here to shade. And that is the answer to practice problem A. All right, look at another practice problem here. Practice problem B. y is anything greater than x minus 3, and y is anything less than or equal to x plus 3. All right, let's graph my first one. My intercept is -3. My slope is positive 1 over 1, something like that. Does it equal the line? It does not have an equal sign there, so it is a dashed line, something like this. All right. My second one here has a intercept of 3, a positive slope of 1 over 1. It's the same slope, same direction. This one is equal to it, so we've got parallel lines here, and looks something like that. Now let's do our shading. All right, this one here, my dashed line, y is larger, so it's above that one. This one, y is less than, it's lower than that one, so a shade in the middle here. Hopefully we got that concept here where y, if it's less than the rest of it, it's below it. If it's greater than the rest of it, it's above it. Okay, hope that goes well for you. I think a pretty simple lesson here. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Have a great day.